I moved to a quiet neighborhood in Buffalo, New York, 2 winters ago. Most houses here decorate heavily for Christmas, lights, garlands, lawn reindeer. But the house directly across from mine never had any decorations. No lights, no wreath, not even footprints in their yard. The place looked abandoned until the first week of December. That's when the snowman appeared. It stood perfectly centered on the lawn across the street. Tall, almost unnaturally tall, maybe 7 feet. Arms made of long, brittle branches that stretched downward instead of outward. And the face wasn't made from coal. It was carved, almost sculpted, with hollow eye sockets that looked burnt into the snow. I assumed some kids built it. But every time I looked at it, something felt wrong. Too symmetrical, too still, too watched. One night, around 12:30 a.m., I got up to grab water. As I passed my living room window, I froze. The snowman was facing my house. I don't mean turned slightly. I mean directly facing my window, its carved eyes pointed straight at me. I stayed there staring for a long minute. It didn't move, didn't tilt, didn't melt, just stared. The next morning, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. There were no tracks around it, no boot prints, no drag marks, nothing. Just the snowman standing in untouched white powder. That night, I took a picture of it to send to my friend. When I zoomed in, the face looked different, like the mouth was longer, wider, pulled into a smile that wasn't there earlier. I deleted the picture. I had no explanation. A few days later, we got hit with a major snowstorm. Whiteout conditions, trees bending under the weight. I worked from home and barely looked outside, but at around 11 p.m., as the storm calmed, I peeked out the window, and I swear on everything, the snowman was closer. Not on the lawn, not even on the sidewalk. It was now standing directly across from my driveway, maybe 15 feet from my house. Once again, no footprints, no signs of it being moved. I pulled my curtains shut, heart racing hard enough to shake my chest. At midnight, I heard something, a slow, rhythmic crunch of snow, not footsteps exactly. More like something dragging weight through snow slow and wet. Every few seconds, crunch, crunch, crunch. It circled my house. I didn't look. I locked myself in my bedroom and waited until morning. When I finally looked outside, the snowman was gone. For a moment, I thought it was over. Then I realized something far worse. On my side yard, beside my bedroom window, the snow was disturbed in a perfect circle, about 6 feet wide, almost like something had been sitting there all night, watching. 2 nights later, the power went out around 2 a.m. The whole street went dark. I sat in my living room with a flashlight, trying to stay calm. But then I noticed something outside, a faint outline, tall, white, still, no, not still, moving, slowly. The snowman, or whatever it was walking, shifting the weight of its snowy body forward in jerky, unnatural movements. It stopped directly in front of my porch. Its arm, made of that long, brittle branch, lifted slowly and tapped the side of my house, just once. A hollow, wooden tap, like it was testing the sound, testing me. I froze completely. My breath felt like ice forming in my throat. Then, from somewhere inside the dark house across the street, I saw a light turn on. The front door opened. A figure stepped out. A tall man wearing a heavy winter coat. He looked at the snowman on my porch, then at me. Then he said quietly, "Don't open your door. Not until sunrise, no matter what happens." He walked back inside, shut his door, and turned off the light. The snowman didn't move for the rest of the night. It just stood there, melting slightly in the cold wind. But its face kept changing. the mouth slowly widening, the eye sockets deepening. At sunrise, it collapsed into a pile of slush. The yard across the street has been empty ever since. The man never came out again. His house is dark every night. No lights, no movement. And sometimes, when the wind hits just right, I swear I hear that soft wooden tapping on the siding of my house again, like something is waiting for winter to get cold enough to rebuild itself. I used to work as an on-call home nurse in rural Pennsylvania. Most calls were simple: oxygen checks, post-op care, that sort of thing. But Christmas Eve 2 years ago, I responded to something that still keeps me awake at night. It was 11:52 p.m. when dispatch called me. Patient hasn't answered routine check-ins. Family requests wellness visit. The address was deep in the woods, the kind of place where the nearest neighbor was half a mile away. Snow covered everything except the narrow driveway leading to a 2-story cabin. I parked outside and immediately felt something off. No lights, no footprints, no tire marks except the old ones frozen beneath the snow. I knocked on the door. No answer. I tried again, louder this time. Still nothing. But then I heard something behind the house, like footsteps crunching slowly, rhythmically through the snow. I stepped around the side of the cabin, shining my light. At first, I saw nothing. Then I noticed a figure standing behind the tree line, not moving, not waving, just standing. I called out, "Hello, I'm here for a wellness check." The figure shifted slightly, not walking, not turning, just a slow lean, as if trying to see me from a new angle. I felt my skin crawl. I hurried back to the front door and tested the handle. It opened. Inside was freezing cold, like the heat had been off for days. The living room was decorated beautifully, tree lit, stockings hung, cookies on a plate. But everything felt staged, too perfect. I called out again. No response. Then I noticed something. The living room window facing the backyard was completely fogged, like someone had been breathing on it. I stepped closer. There were marks on the glass, not finger marks, not handprints, but long, thin lines, dragged downward by something tall. My heart sank. I checked each room quickly. Bathroom, kitchen, storage, empty. Only one door remained. The basement. The air felt heavier down there. The smell of damp wood and cold stone. My flashlight caught something on the far wall. A handprint, not wet, not bloody, frozen. A perfect frost handprint, long-fingered, stretched unnaturally, as if something cold enough to freeze the air had touched the wall. I backed up fast and bumped into something behind me. But it wasn't a person. It was a coat, a heavy winter coat propped on a rack. Except the sleeves were filled, stuffed, shaped like arms. I touched it and felt the coldest sensation I've ever felt run through my fingers. The fabric was frozen stiff, not from temperature, from something inside. I didn't look deeper. I ran upstairs, grabbed my bag, and headed toward the door. When I saw movement outside, the figure from earlier was now standing at the very edge of the porch steps, close enough that I could see its clothing, a long gray coat, a scarf frozen stiff around its neck, and its face. There wasn't one, just an oval of pale frost, like a glass pane fogged with breath. No eyes, no mouth, nothing. It tilted its head slowly, as if listening to something I couldn't hear. Then it lifted a hand, long-fingered, frost-bitten, and pointed toward the basement door behind me. I didn't look back. I slammed the door, bolted it, dashed to my car, and sped down the driveway so fast I barely felt the tires. At the bottom of the hill, I called the family again. This time, they answered. "Oh, you must have gotten the old address," the daughter said casually. "We moved Dad last month. No one's lived there for weeks." I stared at my shaking hands. "So, who requested the wellness visit?" The line went dead silent. "We didn't," she finally whispered. Then quietly, "We told the sheriff 2 years ago to stop responding to calls from that number. Dad's phone was destroyed when he passed. Someone, or something, uses it every Christmas Eve." I grew up in northern Michigan, where December nights feel older than the rest of the year. The snow absorbs sound, the forests turn into black walls, and even normal things, like holiday decorations, start to feel unsettling when you're alone long enough. Back when I was 19, I worked at a roadside tree lot for extra Christmas money. It wasn't an official business, just a family-run thing beside a frozen gas station on a stretch of highway barely anyone used after 10 p.m. We kept a small generator for lights, a propane heater, and a trailer where we stored the saws. I only worked evenings. My shift ended at 1 a.m., and the rule was simple. Don't stay after closing. Don't wander near the tree line. And don't talk to anyone who doesn't come up to the counter. That last rule confused me, but the owner, Rick, said it so casually that I didn't ask questions. It was December 20th when all this happened, a Wednesday, cold enough that even the wind felt frozen. The lot was empty for hours. Most people don't buy Christmas trees at midnight. So I spent most of my shift drinking gas station coffee and pacing around to keep warm. Around 12:15 a.m., I went to shut down the generator when I noticed something strange. One of the big Fraser fir trees, the ones we displayed near the highway, was slightly tilted forward. At first, I thought the wind had knocked it, but the snow around it wasn't disturbed. No tracks, nothing. Then I saw something else. There was a man standing on the other side of the tree line, perfectly still, wearing a deep red hooded coat, the kind with fur trimming around the edge. I couldn't see his face, just the shape of his body, tall and narrow, like he was carved out of the shadow behind him. He wasn't walking toward the lot. He wasn't shopping. He was just watching. His head tilted, as if he knew I had noticed him. I didn't move, not for several seconds. Then I stepped back, pretending to inspect the tree. When I looked up again, the man wasn't there. No footprints in the snow, not even disturbed branches. My stomach tightened. The rule made more sense now. At 12:45 a.m., I began closing up. I locked the cash box, wrapped the unused trees, and shut down the lights. The entire lot went dark, except for the dim glow of the gas station sign. As I started walking toward my car, I heard it, a slow crunch of snow behind me, light, deliberate, like someone matching my steps. I turned around quickly, nothing there, but the sound kept repeating. Not behind me now, to the left, then to the right, then directly ahead, deeper in the forest. It felt like someone circling. My heart jumped into my throat. I clicked on my flashlight and scanned the trees, and then I saw him again, the red-hooded man, standing halfway between the first and second row of pines, close enough that I could see the frost on his coat. This time he wasn't facing me. He was facing a tree, one of the taller ones, his hand pressed against the trunk, almost like he was listening to it. I whispered, "Hello." He didn't move. I took a few steps forward, against every instinct in my body. "Sir, we're closed." The man slowly lowered his hand. Then his head turned, not all at once, but in a slow, unnatural movement, until he was looking directly at me. I felt my body lock. I couldn't breathe for a moment. His hood shadowed his face, but I could see enough to know something was off. His eyes were too wide, not shocked wide, but stretched, like someone trying to mimic a human expression they didn't fully understand. He raised his arm and pointed at me. No words, just that gesture. A cold rush hit me, something deeper than fear. It was the feeling of something choosing you. I fumbled for my keys and dashed to my car. My breath felt like ice shattering in my throat. I locked the doors, started the engine, and looked back toward the trees. The man was gone again, but one of the tall Fraser firs, the one he touched, was now shaking violently, as if something massive had brushed against it. No wind, no animals, just that tree, shaking like it was breathing. I floored the gas pedal and drove home, shaking. The next morning, I told Rick everything. I expected him to laugh or call me dramatic, but he didn't. Instead, he quietly asked, "He pointed at you?" I nodded. Rick sighed hard, rubbing the side of his face. "Every damn year." He motioned for me to follow him to the back of the lot. Behind the trailer, stacked under a blue tarp, were tree trunks, dead ones, each cut clean in half. On the pale wood, carved deep into the bark, were symbols, sharp, linear markings like tall stick figures with circles for heads. Rows of them, dozens. Rick tapped the markings. "He leaves these. We burn them before Christmas Eve." I swallowed. What is he?" Rick didn't answer for a few seconds. Then he said, "Not someone you want attention from. People around here call him the Red Listener. Shows up at the edge of the tree line, watches, picks someone. Never the same person twice." He looked straight at me. "But if he pointed at you? Don't work nights anymore." I quit that same day. It's been 4 years since then. Sometimes I drive past that stretch of highway in December, and every year, without fail, the tall Fraser firs near the road seem bent slightly forward, like something pushes them from behind. And once, last year, I looked into my rearview mirror and saw a red hood standing among the trees just before it slipped out of sight.